Dustin Miller from PPC Pros. He says, what's the biggest operational challenges that make it difficult to grow your business and how to plan for them ahead of time?
Don't have kids. Focus on that money, baby. Don't have children. Oof, man. God, supply chain. Like, without a fucking doubt. You know what I mean? Like, we just talked to Southern Sea Star CEO, and he's like, we wanted to get a rebuild kit, and it took him 2 months. Like, yeah, supply chain. Like, if you like getting jet skis, you know what I mean? Like Ben Merrill from Power Up, like he was like, hey, I'm just driving around the country buying jet skis because Yamaha can't fulfill our orders. We talked to Corinthian. They're like, yeah, we're 2 years out from buying boats. Inflation, everything's going through the roof. So like right now, I think it's like trying to maintain like the rest of the country. We've had an incredible growth cycle, and now we're about to probably go into a recession. And these are not just unique to our industry, but impact it, if not like just as bad, if not more than, I mean, my God, you can't get a low pressure fuel pump for your boat. And you know what I mean? A little $100 part, could keep your boat down for days. So, I mean, we talked about this at great length last year. So I would say supply chain for sure.
I got a question for you. So one of the things I was going to mention was your lease. And we talked about it on the last podcast. I think a lot of operators get screwed over by their landlords because they're just so eager to get in there and start operating. And then once they start building this big business, they're like, oh shit, my lease is up, or they're going to take over, the landlord took over and put his own business in there. Like, not preparing for that could be very detrimental, especially if you're in a high concentrated area where there's not a lot of slips available. So my question for you is, would you go into a new lease when you just start your business? Would you go for a very long lease if you had the opportunity? Or would you do something smaller? I mean,
I would because I'm a fucking operator, which means you for the most part, and there's not a lot of us out there, but there's a handful of us that you put me on water and I'm going to do it. You know what I mean? Like I could do a pirate ship. I could do a snorkel. I could do parasailing. I could do boat rentals. I could do jet skis. And not to say, and that's not like ego speaking. That's just like, I've been in this industry for a long time. I've been around all of this shit. And it's not like I just slept a couple boats in the water and decided to go for it. So the thing is like, if I had to pivot, and I have multiple fucking times, I could. So now where that becomes challenging is if you're building your business to scale. Like there's a lot of times I'm like, shit, man, I don't want this to get top heavy on one side or the other, but market conditions just, made it profitable for me to continue to grow our boat rentals out. But, to that point, it's like, I would always take a long-term lease because it's like, it's on the water. It's what I do. It's what I know, it's like, these are like locations, everything. But if you're like in let's just say like a restaurant district in Manhattan, and you're just a great restaurateur and you have the space, like you might, that space you might change your menu up, but we always talk like Emerald Lagasse, you can cook, you know what I mean? So I know I can cook, like, could change things up,
I would. So if I was getting in, I mean, first of all, if you're not getting in for the right reasons, then you shouldn't even sign a lease regardless. You're just not. But if you're going into this and you're well prepared, definitely want to get the highest lease you can get. 5, 10 years, whatever they're going to give you, go for the highest amount. And I'll tell you why. First, I would put a provision in there if you can. Some landlords will do this, some not, that you can sub it out because worst case scenario, let's say that, your boat just gets totaled and you're losing the whole summer. If you can at least sub it out, you could make back that that money. But more importantly, your business, let's say in 3 years, you crush it and this business is doing great and you want to get acquired. Well, if you had a 10-year lease, you have 7 years on it. Like, that's attractive to somebody. You build more equity into your business by having more years on your lease. And if you're in a really popular area, especially like Destin or Fort Walton, you will have people lining up to take that lease from you. So, and if you have a good relationship with your landlord, they might even let you break the lease because they could probably charge, if you've been in there for 3-4 years, they want you to leave so they can get the next guy in there at $200-$300 more a month. So it's very advantageous. There's a lot more reasons to have a longer lease and a shorter lease, but don't go into it thinking like, I'm only going to run this for 2 years. Like, you have to have the mentality of going into it that you're going to run it for 10 years. But I see so many operators make that mistake by not getting that long lease, and then they lose equity in their business. Their landlord does stupid shit like, open up.
Man, I want to know all these operators who are giving up these long leases, man. I want to go talk to them, man.
You might not even get. There's some areas you're not going to get it. Like, they might give you a 2-3 years at tops. And if they tell you that and they say, well, why only 2 years? They better have a pretty damn good explanation for it, because I'll tell you what they're going to do in 2 years. They're going to open up a competitive business right next to you. And then that's the end of it. Hey everyone, we're going to take a quick break and talk about our sponsors for the month, AMP Agency. AMP is a full-service digital marketing agency that specializes in tour, rental, and destination marketing.
We would not have sponsors on the show if we could not vouch for them ourselves. AMP Agency does a bunch of stuff for Destiny Water Adventures personally. I 100% vouch for this guy. I've handed them over to other companies in the past before they officially became a sponsor, and they have had nothing but great things to say. If you guys are doing your own marketing and doing a piss poor job of it, do yourselves a favor. Hand yourselves over to AMP Agency, specifically Steve Edwards, their CEO, will call you personally and have a great conversation with you about what you guys need to do for your marketing.
Listen, guys, they do pretty much everything in digital marketing: website development, maintenance, Google AdWords, PPC, graphic design, social media management, SEO, and a myriad of other things. When you choose a marketing company, it's so important to choose a company that knows your industry. And AMP Agency knows activity marketing, especially water sports and tours. They got a promo going for Awkward Watersport Guy listeners for their managed websites. Use promo code Awkward Podcast when you go to amp.agency. Again, that's amp.agency, promo code Awkward Podcast. You get 3 months free, and get started with AMP Agency. All right, guys, let's get back to the show.
I think it's difficult here. A lot of people, like, when you're looking at, like, especially the boat rentals, I think that's where some landlords get a little. Don't get me wrong. There's some that fucking want your business. I know a little something about that. And then there's some that just don't want it. Look, I know a buddy of mine was like, when we got evicted and he got evicted too, he was going everywhere. And they just didn't want to have anything to do with it. They're like, look, man, I'm in the business of having a restaurant and having a nice dock, and people can bring their boats up and come eat. And then, like, you guys, the shenanigans that a lot of boat renters, I don't know if, like, you're a boat renter, like, listening to this, but if you're an asshole who goes out there and get drunk, I mean, my God, man, like, sometimes I can't even believe some of the calls that I get from my staff where they're like, yeah, we had to call the police because a dude punched his wife on the boat. I'm just like, what kind of fucking, like, white trash scumbaggery? They had to go to, like, this Disney World deal with this, and they're like, yeah, man, like, fucking socked his wife right in the face standing in line for It's a Small World after all, like, my God, my kids are fucking annoying. But so there's this, like, the boats have this reputation because of the BUIs that happen. And that's not just renters, that's boat ownership too. But you see all these boat fails, captains, there's another one, I can't remember what it's called, but there's all these different boat fails. And it's usually from people who don't know what they're doing and people who are drinking. So the livery industry does have a reputation where they're just like, hey, we might try this out for a year. The money sounds great. But next thing you know, you have trash in your parking lot. Like, are you adding value? So, I mean, that's I think that's always going to be that'll always be a challenge. That's not unique to right now, but yeah. I mean, if you can get a long-term lease, absolutely. But there's a reason they're few and far between, and they're so hard to get. And it's not just the Florida market. It's, it's everywhere. So we opened, me and Sean Walsh and myself, and I haven't we've had so much going on, and then I've had like a lot of personal stuff going on. But we've opened up a business with Sean in Texas. And even Texas, it's like really, really hard to find slip space. And he's like, yeah, man, it's like all over Galveston. There's just, I don't know if just people don't want to deal with it, or they just don't want it, or what the liability, it's like we are very liable. So if you think of it from like a landowner's point of view, like if you have this waterfront property and you have a business on it that's already doing well, like, is it going to be worth the headache? Depending on the market, because a lot of times people don't even know what they have. Like when I first came into Fort Walton, they were like, "Oh yeah, it's like $300 a month or something like that." It was stupid cheap. And then when somebody did realize, like, "Oh, look at this guy's making money," like every year is like, "Oh, the rent doubling, the rent doubling, the rent doubling, the rent doubling," and that's God, always a challenge as well.
When we leased for our jet ski business in Orange Beach, the owner never rented to a jet ski rental operation. And after the first year, he had so many complaints from other tenants. We ran it well, but it's just, it's a really tight marina, and, some of the people were running into the sailboats. It actually was like a residential marina. People were living on their boats. And he's like, listen, I'm going to keep you. We are the only jet ski rental company at the marina. He's like, we're going to keep you because you pay on time, you have good people, you have good equipment, and it's worth the occasional headache that I have with my long-term tenants. And plus, we bought a shitload of fuel, so that made it worth it. But he would not rent to other rental companies. Because not that there wasn't anything in the lease that said that he couldn't, but he just wouldn't, because it was a headache. And I was very fortunate when I sold the business, my lease was up. I was very, very fortunate that he renewed, a new person bought it, which if that didn't happen, my business wouldn't have sold. And he was able to get a 5-year. The new owner came in. We helped negotiate a 5-year. And now, if it wasn't for that, the business wouldn't have sold. Basically, the lease held up the entire sale. That's why I think it's one of the biggest challenges, because people go into it, they just get excited and they want to start. And they're fine with a year or 2 years. But if you are running it right, you're going to regret it, because when that 2 years is up, who knows? They might decide they don't like you in there anymore. Now you're having to make a decision. But if it's 5 years, at least he's stuck with you for 5 years.
I tried everything I could, man. Buying boats from the motherfuckers, giving them free rentals, man. I was over there cooking them breakfast and shit. I'm like, come on, man. Let me get more than a 1-year lease. And they're like, no, we can't. No, sorry, it's only year to year. I'm like, oh, shit. I know why. You want to do what I do. It's fun. Yeah, man. You should start a podcast too, motherfucker. Hey, Greg, that's gonna happen. If I ever sell Destiny Water Adventures, like, you're gonna get a new podcast partner. You're gonna get some like guy named like fucking Skip or Larry or some shit. He's like, Kevin said I would get my own podcast. But wait a minute, what did that sell for?
He threw the podcast
$11. $11 in a pizza.
Well, we got one more quick one here from Kevin Novus.
So it's like a co-op.
Yeah, talking about insurance premiums, possible co-op alternative. So I kind of like the idea of forming a co-op on the insurance premiums. I don't know how to do it, but we have enough people in our community now that we probably could.
Let's just start an insurance company, Greg. Because like those guys are the ones that. Those are your unknown business partners that really kill. Like when they're like, yeah, it'll be like 12% of gross. And I'll be like, oh, I didn't realize I had a fucking new business partner, Admiral Insurance. Like, it's so great to have you aboard. Are you going to do this oil change or no? We're just going to take a big old chunk of your fucking bottom line. And then if anything happens, we won't pay it. And we'll fucking hang you out to dry.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on
this is what happened.
premium?
I was a fucking like a happy-go-lucky, like knocking on doors in 2008. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. I was a fucking Johnny the Liberal. God damn, until I met insurance and taxes and local government. I was like, oh my God, what am I doing here? I'm like running for the fucking hills, man. No, insurance is a devil. I hate them as much as I hate the goddamn government. If you want to get me angry about two things, like get me started on government and insurance. Like, the co-op thing is a nice dream. If we got all together and we pitched in $20,000 or $25,000, but then it's like the same thing. You know what I mean? Like somebody comes in and like how many guys are me? How many guys are Kevin? How many guys are Jason? How many guys are Brian or James or whoever? You know what I mean? Because you're not going to come up to me and go like, well, yeah, man, like I'm going to be paying 20 grand. And I'm like, yeah, well, I'm not doing free ride jet skis. And next thing you know, I see one of your guys 5 feet off my dock fucking doing 100 miles an hour flat out. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, well, I don't want to be in this co-op with you anymore because, whatever. So, I mean, like what kind of due diligence, so it's like, yeah, we hate the insurance company, but at the same point in time, like, God damn, man, if they saw like half the shit that was going on with some of their insured, they'd probably cancel them right then and there. So, and then, how much money people sue for. And I have no idea, man, like co-op, all that sort of stuff. Like, I think in theory, it seems like a great idea. But at the same point in time, I just would, if I was going to get into the insurance business, I would just get in the insurance business, like, I got too much other shit I got to worry about for making sure people are paying their co-op dues and, going out there and making sure they're not fucking idiots.
Hey guys, we're going to take a quick break and talk about our sponsor, Boat Test 101. Boat Test 101 is FWC and NASBO accredited online provider of both temporary certificate and full card.
Yeah, guys, if you can't tell, Greg takes it super seriously. Have you been taking voice lessons, man? You sound so pro, dude. So yeah, Destiny Water Adventures uses Boat Test 101. When somebody shows up super late and they go, hey, we're just on time for their tour, their jet ski or their boat. And they're like, we have to take a boat test. And then we have to break out the paper and they have to sit there for 30 minutes. They miss half their time. They get late. You get bad reviews. When you guys can just SMS, text them a link, email them to your Boat Test 101 affiliate link. They take the test online on their way there. They don't have to sit out in the hot sun. They take the test on their way or before they get there. They email you their ID and their boat test. They're good to go right when they walk up to the door. They sign your paperwork and on the water they go. It's easy breezy.
They pay an industry leading commission of 30% and their boating tests are $1 cheaper than the competitors at $8.99 a test. No contract to you and there's no cost. So you can get started right away and start making some money and providing a better experience for your guests. BoatTest101.com. Again, BoatTest101.com and tell them that the AWG guys sent you.
That's right. Take your boating test as serious as Greg took this commercial and get your asses over to BoatTest101.com and sign up today.
All right, let's get back to the show. So I got a question about insurance. What do you think is the single most important thing to prevent, that helps prevent incidents prior to actually getting on the boat? Like, what are the most significant things that operators do to prevent incidents before they get on in the water? And I'm talking like the education component or maybe some procedures that operators do. And why I ask this question is if there was a new system that operators had to follow, not just orientation or training, but a specific system that can be tested and can be proven to reduce injuries and incidents that can be deployed, at all water sport locations. Because just to go form a co-op and say, hey, we're going to get together and form a co-op and save on insurance rates, but go a step above that and say, we're going to create an entirely new procedure that it has proven to reduce incidents from doing X, Y, Z prior to them getting on the water, because we can't control when they're on the boat. They're on their own, but we can control everything before that. So I know that, like with parasailing, they get if they go to that parasailing symposium, don't they get like a reduced rate on their insurance or something? I don't know.
Well, for a while they used to have like if you were a first flight approved captain, you had to have like 500 flights underneath your belt, because the thing is back in the day there was no like parasail captain. You just had to have your ticket. There was no like parasail school or anything like that, because it's like tubing school or something like that. I know every fucking parasail captain's aghast right now. What? Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the fact of the matter is just like these are a bunch of guys in the 80s who were like drinking beers and shit, man. You know what I mean?
So what if that there was almost like, if you have the credentials, they might actually, insurance companies might give insurance breaks to customers that had no incidents for a while. Do they do that?
No, fuck no, man.
No, I don't know. It's been a while since I had a bit, but I'm just like, let's say that people who attend like our water sport conference, people that have
I like that idea. Let's
people
bump
that
up
have
our prices.
People that have like a
$500 to get the reduced rate for fucking insurance. I'd do that shit.
Basically just have lists of things that operators can do. And I mean, they can't just like do it half-assed, but actually like get involved with the process. Like you got John Stevens, who was appointed by, the governor on the Florida Boating Safety Council, like seeing more, involvement from the industry, that insurance companies can say, okay, well, if these guys get more involved, they're going to conferences, they're going to roundtables, they're learning, they're trying to make their business as safe as possible, like going above and beyond, putting more workflows into the customer booking process. Now with technology, we can do some pretty cool things, and we can track their skis. I honestly think that any business that puts like trackers, or even like John, I love John's system where if they're in a no wake zone and they're going more than 7 miles an hour, whatever the no wake is, it beeps at them. Like those are legitimate things that are going to, prevent incidents. Like those things should reduce insurance rates. Like, how do we get more of that?
Well, so it's like, I mean, it just depends. Like first, like every, like there's, how are you going to like how are you going to vet a parasail captain versus how are you going to vet a dolphin captain, the characteristics of the waterways that they're on, what I mean? Like, I think that the problem that it poses is that because because this is like a group thing, right? So it's like there couldn't be a further water sport away from renting a fucking boat, right? Like I rent a boat to somebody, I'm like, I'm a water sport operator, right? But like a parasail guy, and I love to use parasail, one, because I did it for years, but it is to me the most extreme water sport, minus like maybe like hydroflight and jet skis, but where you're in control of something. A hydroflight, customers in control. Jet ski, customers in control. There's only so much that you can truly do before, there's only so much that you can do as an operator where you're giving somebody a piece of equipment and you're like, fucking, here you go, man, like have fun. There's only so many times you can tell them. There's only so many lookouts you can have. There's only so much shit you can actually do where you have to, there's gotta be common sense on the part of the operator. So like one of the things that we do is that we like make shit like crystalline clear with people. Like, look, man, like we're going to go over everything. We're going to do everything, but ultimately you are responsible. And so it starts at me. It goes down to my manager. It goes down to my dock hands because I'm giving equipment away. So it doesn't matter if it's hydroflight, jet skis, boat rentals, kayaks, stand-up paddle boards. And then you have the other side of the industry, which is captain-led. But what it really all comes down to is education. And are you educating your staff? So like my staff we could like be on top of everything, all of our weather, like, man, like we talked about doing like logs, like a captain's log for our customers where we're putting everything down in the log book for them. Like what was today's conditions? What do the waters look like?
I have a business idea. You and I need to start.
All right. We should talk about when the mics are off or something. someone steals it.
Yeah, we're gonna do
the
that.
neighbors' brothers listening to this podcast.
No, we're gonna save it for off the podcast because it's so good, and I want people to listen in next week when we actually, or maybe weeks. But if it's really good, then we can talk about it on the show. But I'm gonna save it. But I have a really good business idea for us.
Let's go, man. Does it involve me not business. Like staring at? I'm in. Sold.
It's in. It's a SaaS business. Okay,
money. I want services and software.
On that note, we're finished with our 2-part series. We're stretching. These were great questions. We appreciate everyone that participated. And so we got our mid-bird pricing too on the Watersport conference. Mid-bird pricing.
Let me do the naming of whatever our service as a software is, by the way, man.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Midbird.
Okay. So, we look forward to seeing everybody at the conference September 26th and 27th. It's going to be awesome. Probably heard us talk about it 100 times already, but we're going to just talk about it one more time. So anyways, thanks for listening. And as always, keep it awkward.